Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and the altcoins and the rest of the crypto market space. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so you guys can see here that Bitcoin has absolutely exploded to the upside. Okay, this thing has hit a high as of today, I think it is, almost $81,000 Bitcoin. So we got the already confirmation on the daily time frame, and we're about to get a confirmation on the weekly time frame. Keep in mind, futures opens right around the same time that this close should happen. But I did tell you guys that what I was looking for was a daily and or a weekly close above those March highs. Okay, so we already got the daily. Now we just need to get the weekly, which we're about to get. Okay, and that is the signal, in my opinion, right there that's going to lead to probably about 6 to 12 months of bull run coming up. Okay. So we'll get into the possible max targets for Bitcoin here in a minute, but I did want to show you guys that Ethereum is also popping off too. This could be a very early indication that there is a potential all season right around the corner. I'll go into Bitcoin dominance and ETH Bitcoin a little bit later, but you can see this massive explosion to the upside here on Ethereum. Again, why do I say that ETH could be an early indicator of the all season coming? There's a reason for this because a lot of these tokens are based on the Ethereum blockchain on what's known as ERC20 tokens. Okay, so they have contracts on the blockchain that allow their token to trade over Ethereum using gas fees. Those of you guys that are in the native space, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so up 38% on the week. All right, so before I get into the metrics here, what I want to say is probably tomorrow through Friday and probably for many weeks and months to come, I am expecting the Bitcoin miners, the native cryptocurrencies, the grayscale trusts, and the crypto stocks, basically the crypto stocks like MicroStrategy, Coinbase, the spot Bitcoin ETFs, dividend paying crypto related ETFs. I'm expecting pretty much all of them to start moonshoting this week. Okay. So I wanted to throw that out there. I also wanted to show you guys the cryptocurrency market cap. So it's gotten absolutely massive. Again, the previous peak, and we'll go over that in this video as well, was roughly about $3 trillion for the, I believe it's total one. You guys can see right now it's currently 2.85 trillion. With Bitcoin currently being roughly about 1.6 trillion, Ethereum being 380 billion, and so on and so on. Okay. So there has been a lot of green here, a lot of green days on the 7-day and the 1-day time frame here. So a lot of bullishness going on. Look, we've just started the parabolic phase of the bull run. I'm pretty sure this is it. Okay. But what I want to tell you guys plainly, and please understand me when I tell you this can go on for weeks and weeks and weeks and months. Okay. But when it looks like the top is in, I'm going to let you guys know when I think we're getting close to the top, or the top, in my opinion, is actually in. Okay. I'm going to let you guys know that. We are accumulating much more aggressively at this point. I'll put it to you like that, because again, this is the beginning, in my opinion, of the parabolic phase of the bull run, but at some point it's going to come to an end. Okay. And when it does, the whales are going to want to dump everything that they have on top of your heads. And whether you choose to be that guy that holds your bags all the way down to zero or not, that's entirely up to you. Okay. Or not to zero, but you guys know what I'm saying. I mean, these things go down 80, 90% in bare winters at some point in the future, 2026. Okay, so we finally got the pop up, the spike here in retail sentiment on the Google search terms for crypto and Bitcoin. Again, I told you guys right here that this thing was flatlined, so it was kind of dead, right? Usually when it's flatline like this is the best time to get in. That means retail is not here. You guys are in early, all that jazz. Well, we just saw a big spike right after the elections. That does not surprise me at all. Even more so for Bitcoin, but crypto, you guys can see that is also absolutely ripping to the moon as well. So fear and greed here. We're in the extreme greed territory. I will remind you guys once again on this metric that this can stay in one extreme or the other for a very long time before switching direction. Whether we're going to see large pullbacks during the bull run up for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, that remains to be seen. That usually does happen. There is usually like 15 to 30% pullbacks at a minimum on the way up. During bull runs, there can be multiple pullbacks before the actual top comes in. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. But in terms of this metric, it just now entered into the greed and extreme greed territory. So, like I said, we're probably in the beginning phase of the parabolic bull run. We're probably not going to get a dip in the price anytime soon, at least not for maybe like a few weeks or a month or two. That's just my opinion. Okay, but I think that's likely what's going to happen. All right, so MVRV, this one's starting to tick up, but again, until it gets close to these upper boxes here, I would say it's nothing to be worried about. Of course, the best time to look forward to, and again, you would have to plan for this into the future to get into the best, most optimal position on Bitcoin would be in the green down here during the bear market winter. But again, that's likely not going to be till 2026. So Bitcoin rainbow chart, this one's pretty simple. Usually after the halving, we kind of chop around between the blue and the green. And when we do eventually lift off, takes a little while sometimes, but usually when we do lift off, we really start lifting off. Okay. And you can see this on this little black line past the halving here that it does appear to want to be pointing upwards. So this could be the start of the, as I said, the parabolic move of this run coming up for the next probably. If we see a real major correction, maybe not going to happen for like the next 4 or 5 months. So, okay, so Nupal here, this one's pretty simple. Usually when we get closest to euphoria and greed, that's when everybody should be like, yikes. Again, I can't tell you what to do, but that's usually when we're pretty close to a Bitcoin top. Okay, you can see the blue line here is Bitcoin. No, my bad. The black line here is Bitcoin, and the blue line is basically the fear and greed. So yeah, in 2021, this was pretty accurate in March. It was not really that accurate in November, but again, if you use this in Confluence with the indicators like we do, it's pretty. It becomes much easier to spot. So 2020 or 2017, that one would have been obvious, right? So Bitcoin's top hit right exactly as it got into euphoria and greed. And then again, we saw this back in 2013. So it's a pretty solid indicator. All right. So Pi cycle top. I told you guys likely that we were after a period of time below the yellow line, the yellow EMA, like before. Okay. This happens often throughout time. Once we get back above it, we're likely going to push up into the green EMA. Okay, so we're currently seeing that right now. So the yellow EMA is at 63,000. Bitcoin's almost at 80,000 as of right now. And the green EMA, which has not actually kind of pulled up here yet, I'm assuming it hasn't been updated yet. So it currently sits at 118,000. So once we get past the green EMA, that's the actual kind of parabolic blow off top, which again could take many months to play out. Okay, I'm not, when I say blow off top, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, it's going to happen tomorrow. No, usually takes weeks if not months to actually play out. Okay, but again, just to get up to that point, Bitcoin has to get to roughly about 116,000 somewhere in there. Okay, all right, so last one here, M2 money supply. This one's pretty straightforward. Usually when the green hills and the blue lines start going up, they really go up over time. Okay, and Bitcoin usually follows it. You can see it every single time here. The green peaks start out small. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. Blue line goes up. History kind of repeats itself here. So what I want to say about this is I'm expecting these green peaks to get bigger. Okay, I'm not expecting them to go down. And again, you guys got to understand how all this works. Okay, so the Fed's got inflation under control. They're currently cutting rates. They've already cut by 75 BP. Trump's getting elected. He said he wants to slam rates down to the floor. He's already asked Powell if he's going to lower rates, and if Powell doesn't do it, then there's a chance that Powell might be on the chopping block. I am actually not going to give my opinion about that this time. I think Powell's obviously going to want to cooperate because he wants to keep his job, right? So with the rates being lowered, this thing is naturally going to grow. Okay, I know you guys are like, oh God, politics again. Well, you guys got to understand, okay? Politics influence the markets, whether people like it or not, because the politicians create policies that influence finance. Okay, that's the way it works. I hate to use the word puppet masters, but yes, the politicians essentially are the puppet masters. Okay, and the financial the puppet masters, the financiers, okay, the lobbyists and the special interest groups and the billionaires, the trillionaire families. Like, I'm not going to name any names here, but you guys do your research. You'll know who I'm talking about here, whether it's an individual or family. They usually get what they want out of Congress, okay? So it's kind of a vicious circle, so to speak. Let's put it like that. But politics do have a heavy influence on finance. All right, so I want to get into the actual charts here. Okay, so Bitcoin, we already talked about the daily, weekly breakout. I don't think I need to say anything more about that. What I will say about this, okay, so looking forward in time, so we got the golden crosses here, right? We have the official breakout here, higher highs, higher lows. We've been talking about that. We got the official breakout on the daily, weekly is about to close here in 3 hours. Here's what I want to say about this, okay? If we're looking for some kind of topping signal, there's a couple things we want to look for, okay? Number one, the timing of this cycle. So usually Bitcoin will not have a major correction until right around the middle of the post-halving year. Okay, so this could be April, May, June, sometime next year. And then we usually don't go into the bear market winter until we get that fourth year. Okay, so we have the pre-halving, the halving, the post-halving, and then the fourth year is the kind of yikes, get out while you still can before the market dumps. So that would be closer towards the end of next year. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing I want to say, if we start to see a very large sustained shade of green, maybe some kind of bearish divergence. When I say shade of green, I mean massively overbought on the weekly time frame for Bitcoin. I could even maybe go out here on the monthly time frame and take a look at that as well. If we start seeing something like that, then that is a major red flag. Maybe it's time to consider start taking some profit off the table. There is another thing I want to point out here, okay? So let's see if I can pull it up here. So stochastic RSI. And again, this is going to be strictly for the 2-week time frame, not the weekly time frame, because I think it's a little bit more accurate on the 2-week. So when the stochastic RSI eventually on the 2-week does eventually get up to about 90 to 100, you guys can see this has happened before on the price of Bitcoin, okay? So we got it back here during this sideways chop, the indicator reset, then we took off. In this case, we got the sideways chop again at the top, indicator reset, and then we took off. But I actually want to go back in time here to kind of make a point so you guys can see when it got overbought back here. We were getting pretty close to the top, okay? And then we got the bearish divergence, price going up, indicator coming down. That's kind of like, okay, this thing's probably going to dump. Then it did. So we didn't quite get to overbought here on the 2-week on the November 2021 peak, but we got pretty close. Okay, usually when we get either close to this or overbought, for the stochastic, that's kind of a major warning sign that the top is likely in. Okay, and we will be covering that, just so you guys know. But I did just want to point that out, just so you guys know in the future what to kind of some things to look for in terms of where the final top may actually come in. And again, peaks for anything in markets is extremely hard to predict. It's almost impossible to predict, but there is some ways that we can kind of maybe front run it a little bit, get close to the top or the bottom, but maybe not perfectly time it. Okay, so we covered that. Before I go over the rest of the timeframes on Bitcoin, I did also want to show you guys the Bitcoin dominance here. So we have had a major red candle on the Bitcoin dominance, kind of a fake out to the upside, or a bull trap is what it's known as. So when we get a major sell-off of this is usually pretty indicative of an altcoin season. It would look something like this, okay? You see these huge red candles here? When we start to see something like that, you know that alt season is at hand, okay? So here's what I'm looking for in terms of that. This is a rising wedge, okay? So it's a bearish pattern. In this case, what that means is when we get a dump down on the Bitcoin dominance out of the bearish pattern, a strong dump with a lot of red candles. Again, this can take weeks to play out. That confirms alt season, okay? This thing has been forming since June of 2022. Again, we would need to see it come below the bottom of the wedge here to confirm the dump out of this bearish rising wedge, and then below the EMAs, and that should pretty much be game on for the alt season. I would say altcoin prices could even rise into this sell-off. but not really start to explode until after we start getting probably several weeks of successive red candles on these. I'll go in the ETH. I'll go into the ETH Bitcoin in a different video, but ETH Bitcoin is essentially the inverse of this. Okay, so when the Bitcoin dominance falls, ETH Bitcoin will rise. Okay, so the ETH dominance will rise, which again is an indicator of either an alt season is here or it's about to be here. All right, so last thing here we're going to take a look at is Bitcoin. So we already took a look at the weekly. We're going to take a look at the monthly, and then we're going to take a look at the yearly time frame. So monthly time frame, kind of the same thing on the RSI. Okay, so when we see this thing get majorly overbought on the RSI on the monthly time frame, that's usually a pretty strong indication that the top might be in. Again, we're not seeing that on monthly, but you can see here in May of 2021, it was pretty obvious the top was in. And also in 2017, again, not really so obvious when Bitcoin went from 1,200 to 20,000 that the top was in. But I mean, if you're worried about it, maybe, again, I can't tell you what to do, but maybe consider just scaling out as you see these overbought signals come in. That's kind of a safe way to hedge. Again, it's like basically taking like half the profit off the table and then letting the rest run, so to speak. That's known as a runner in trading terms. But again, you guys are free to do what you want. So we got the monthly close here. And again, we obviously do want to see a monthly close above 71,300. I think it's pretty much set in stone that we're going to get that at this point. November is usually a very bullish month for markets in general. So it wouldn't surprise me if this actually went even higher than it currently is right now. So the last thing I want to point out here is that the yearly candles that we're looking at, okay? So again, like I keep saying before, okay, we get 3 green years, 1 red year, 3 green years, 1 red year. Kind of ignore this back here. That was a little bit closer to Bitcoin's inception. So the red year always comes on midterm years, okay? So we're in a presidential election year. Midterm years would be like 2018, 2022, 2026, okay? You get my point, right? So pre-halving year, post-halving year, and then we get the bear market. Okay, pre-halving year, post-halving year, then we get the bear market. All right. So Biden was elected in 2020. That was a presidential year. That was also the Bitcoin halving year for 2020. And then we get the green in that year and the post-halving, which was 2021. And then 2022 was the midterms. We got the dump then. And then you guys are seeing history repeat here. So what am I saying? All right, so what I'm saying is likely the rest of all of this year should be green for all of crypto. Okay, so this candle right here, this green candle should get more green. And then all of next year should also be green. And then in 2026, if we're going to get a bear market in 2026, it's likely going to happen during that year. It may even start to play out kind of in the November, December of next year, specifically for crypto. All right. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.